pump or anything down. Crazy. What you can show?
Yeah, fine.
Okay. Is there anything that what reactions?
No, I'll talk through it.
No, what do you think of the South Island boss? On my head or
I'm really not. I'm not a massive fan of it, to be fair. I'm perfectly honest, because there's just too many reactions after that.
Like going straight to the back.
Yeah. Which like this? Can I close up? Which one? You're talking about the one where they stack, basically.
No, I'm talking about the one where they like scissor their legs, they like bring the leg down and then like force after. It's sort of weird.
Oh, I know. I'm thinking of a different one. So I've got a bunch of these. The one where you're like in the clothes got the body lock and they try and like put my pressure down to open.
Well, I think that's kind of retarded.
Wow, I didn't get a film, so that's a good shout. I've definitely done. Speaking like that.
Is it
the cool now? I chose my perfect last night. Team.
Or at the time?
Got my notes.
Where do you use from
No, I'm gonna go guillotine, high wrist, long wrist, arm in for both, then anacondas. I know I might do darts next week to carry it on because I don't think we're gonna have enough time to do that.
Don't hate because it's not going to see it going next.
Oh yeah, let's see if I can see.
Yeah, right, Joe.
Yo.
We're live.
Is it him?
Yeah.
Cool. Right. Let's give everybody 5 seconds. Start.
Relax in the first play.
So that's
Come on. Just wait for everybody and then we'll start. No, let's definitely not play that. It's like 500-year-old computer, that's why. Ancient. That's actually not even that's probably quite realistic. I think this laptop's older than that. Yeah, mate, there. I'm gonna start in like 1 minute. And we'll... Everybody can hear me, yeah?
all good, mate.
Right. I'm mainly going to be going over. Guillotines today. Okay. Not even guillotines, just front headlocks. I'm just going to try and focus on guillotines and anaconda chokes today. If we have more next week, I might go on to darces. There's a lot of stuff I can go over on darces, but for now, I just want to stick with. There's enough on just different guillotine variations and enough stuff on anacondas in general. Okay, so I'm going to start off with the most common one, which is the Marcello team, what people call the Marcello team. I'm going to, for for the sake of this video, call it a high-risk guillotine, okay? The reason we're going to call it a high-risk guillotine is because one of the main aspects of it, when Marcelo's going for it, or people in general, is their wrist is going to be higher than the person's shoulder, okay? And then we're going to go over low-risk guillotines, and then we'll go over arming variations of both, and then I'm going to go over to anacondas, okay? So a lot. But anytime you want to ask questions, just ask questions, all right? I'm just going to start off with a few Marcelo Garcia matches, like perfect examples of high elbow guillotines, and I'll show you a bit of Gordon Ryan's entries as well. Okay? Let me just start by sharing, and then so I'm going to switch between showing the technique and showing what's on my screen. Okay. So let me just start with this Marcelo Garcia match with Victor Estemer, okay? He actually does some stuff here that I don't particularly like. Well, no, Marcelo, he's definitely doing the correct thing here, but Victor had options in these scenarios to get out, okay? So one thing I want you to realize about guillotines, Kron's going to be a bit different when I move on to low elbow, okay? But one of the main things I want you to realize about guillotines is you're going to see the person's body be basically completely on the opposite side of whatever side he's choking with, okay? So if I'm choking Will with my right arm, I want my body to be completely off to the left, okay? So you'll see it with Marcelo a lot. Whenever they're finishing, they're going to be finishing completely off to one side, okay? I'm not closing up a closing guard around them. I'm mostly going to be completely off to one side when I'm going for these chokes. And one person that's very, very good at showing this is Marcelo, because if you see any Marcelo match, most of them, unless he's finishing his guillotine on mount, you're going to see a lot of him be completely off to the side. So for instance, in this one, you see how his body's completely to one side? He's not locking up close guard. He's completely off to the opposite side he's choking with. Yeah, okay. I'm going to go over and show what they're doing, but I just wanted you to have a few options just to see straight out the gate, okay? So here's his one of Victor Estemer. Okay, and you see how his wrist, you can kind of see the bad angle. It's a bad angle for this, but I guarantee Marcelo Garcia's choking hand's wrist is higher than Victor Estemer's shoulder at this point, okay? And I'll show you why it's important in a bit, okay? Another showing of this, Gordon does a very good show. Can you see this here? Cool, okay. So Gordon does so. Okay, one minute. This match, if you ever want to go and watch it, this is the last 170 tournament Gordon did. He does not take this match very seriously. He basically plays around the whole time. You'll see it when he gets this guillotine here, okay? So this is another variation of a high-risk guillotine, okay? You see how his wrist here, he's trying to get his wrist higher than this guy's shoulder, all right? And then he's getting his grip. He hasn't locked up close guard. He basically uses this as a sweep, okay? He uses a sweep and gets on top. He's not trying to finish in this match. For some reason, he just basically gets loads of submission holds and lets go of them, all right? But I just want you to see that there's another version of the wrist coming up first, okay? Coming up high. Later on, he hits a very sick variation of this, which is why I've got this match up. And then one more thing to show you, one more finish. This is probably one of my favorite finishes ever, I'd say. Okay, this is his finish on Kron. Oh man, oh it's in the middle. That's fine. This is his finish of Kron, which this whole sequence is absolutely mental. It comes in. This is disgusting. One of the smoothest passes ever. Okay, front headlock. Okay. And now you see Marcelo's going to throw his leg over, because the main problem you're going to have with guillotines, okay, why I'm saying all this, is the guy will always, or most of the time, try and bring his body to the opposite side you're choking to, okay? So if I'm trying to choke Will, okay, with my right arm, and he manages to get his body to the left of me, I'm never going to be able to finish it, okay? There's very few scenarios where you still can, but one of them is also the high wrist. If I kept the high wrist when Will was passing, okay, if I keep a high wrist when Will's passing, I still block his shoulder from coming in properly, and I can still get a tap from him passing off to the side. So, but it's always going to be better for you if you can keep your body. What's it called? It's always going to be better if you can use your body to block his advancement to bring his body on the opposite side. Okay, that's a very, very important thing. So whenever I'm going for guillotines, usually I'm always going to try and completely block off that side rather than going for close guard. There's a few ways to defend guillotines from close guard. Mainly being, I can then the scenario. What can happen in a guillotine scenario where I've got close guard is Will can post off of his forehead and start driving weight down into me, and basically it can relieve a lot of pressure from the choke itself. It's also the reason why you want to keep your guard open like this is if Will does try and do something like that where he tries to posture into me now in this position. If he comes up to his feet now and I have this guillotine position, because my legs are open, it's very easy for me to thread my other leg in and start going for sweeps. Okay, so that's another reason why you want to keep your legs open in that position. Okay, that does it for high wrist guillotines. Okay, so now I just want to show you the techniques quickly. Okay. Okay, now I'm just going to show you the high wrist. Okay. So, right. Well, I'm going to show it from a static position. Most of those submissions you saw was kind of during transition. I'm going to show it from static because it's going to be a lot easier for you to see rather than me rolling about. Okay. So, one of the main positions you're going to get into first when you're going to the high wrist guillotine or just guillotines in general. Okay. There's plenty of ways I can get into this position, whether it be snap down or when I was showing it with Nicky Ryan, I can hip heist from here. Like a hip heist would be, I put weight into Will, I bring my leg back and throw his arm in and we get to this position, okay? But this is the main position we're trying to get to, okay? This front headlock position. So the main things I want in this position, okay, is I want a chin strap with my choking hand that's going around his head. Okay, so I want a chin strap with this hand. I want my shoulder in between his shoulders to keep good control so I can put weight down on him. And my free hand is going to be controlling his tricep, okay? I have the choking hand, I have my knee down, and my other leg is up. If both my knees were on the ground here, and Will grab my legs, he'd easily sweep me down, okay? So I have my one leg up, so if Will tries to grab my leg now, it's very easy for me to start cutting angles with my free leg and start taking his back, okay? Front headlock, this position, is not just for choking from this position, it also opens up lots of different things, back attacks. Yeah, you can do back attacks, you can do front headlock stuff. There's just lots of stuff to do from here. One of the main things from turtle, okay, and depends on if we take the guy's back or not, is going to be how far his elbow is from his knee, okay? Or when I'm going for chokes, where his shoulders are when I'm choking, okay? These are important things. If his elbows are far away from his knee, okay, I now have space for my knee to go inside of it, okay? So from here, I can bring my knee in, okay, switch, and I can start going for back attacks. If his shoulders are far away from his head, like you see how he's not really shrugging in this position, this makes it easy for me to go for these high wrist chokes, which I'm going to show in a second, okay? Where if his shoulders were shrugged, yeah, it's very hard for my wrist to come through, okay? But it does open up anaconda chokes, okay? So there's a constant thing of creating dilemmas. The guy has to do something to defend, and if he doesn't, we can just go straight back to the attacks we want, okay? So for the high wrist, okay, we're in this position. I have my one knee down, my chin strap, my hand on the tricep, okay? This is probably the thing I'd go through first if the guy hasn't decided to put up any defenses, okay? So in this scenario, Will's elbows are kind of far back, his shoulders aren't scrunched, and it makes it easy for me to bring my wrist up, okay? So what I'm going to do now is you see how my head is on this shoulder? I want my hand to come basically where my head is, okay? And I want my wrist to go above Will's shoulder. The way I do that is I'm going to move my head to the opposite shoulder as my wrist comes up. So my head goes to the opposite shoulder and my wrist comes up. here, okay? If I can grab my chest, perfect. If you can't, I just want, if there was someone behind Will and we're in this direction, here, I want you all to be able to see my wrist, or at least my knuckles, yeah? Now from here, when I'm going for the choke, okay, I have my other hand on this tricep. One of the main things that happens as soon as you're going for this choke is the person will roll to their shoulders, like this, okay? And this is when you have to start doing stuff like follow them, going for the choke like this. It's much better if you can stop them from rolling, okay? Because they can start putting a bit of less pressure on you when you're in mount. Okay, so from here, my wrist comes up, okay? Now my hand from the tricep is going to go to his lat, okay? This should slow down his roll. If I grab his lat now, it should slow down the roll. As I do that, okay, so my hand goes to his lat. Now my knee is going to go to his hip. So I'm here and my knee goes to his hip. Now if he starts rolling, I can follow him quite easily. All right? And one of the things you see Marcelo do in that match with Kron is before he sits to his butt, he throws his leg over, which is very important. This is why that in that Victor Estima finish, he sits to his butt first. And that's the problem. It comes back to what we were saying earlier, okay? So if I sit to my butt first, okay, and now I have nothing controlling Will, if my legs are really weak, he can pass to this side, like this, or it's very, very easy because there's no leg controlling his posture, he can just roll to his back, okay? There's definitely options from there when he rolls to his back, like anacondas, or to follow up to mount, but it's less than ideal, do you know what I mean? It's the same thing with like, if a guy's in turtle and you can take his back, you want to take his back. If he falls to his back and gives you side control mount, that's good, but at the end of the day, we want to take the back, didn't we? Okay, it's the same thing with this guillotine, okay? So I'm going through it. Hand on the chin, shoulder in between his shoulders, my head's on the shoulder, and the tricep, one knee down, one leg up, okay? Now I move my head to the opposite side as my wrist comes up, okay? So people should be able to see my wrist from behind Will. Now, my knee goes to his hip, okay? My knee goes to his hip, now I can grab his lat, okay? And from here, I can lock my grip up or I can pull back, okay? I'm just going to show you with my grip lock. So I grab my grip. Before I sit back, okay, I'm going to windscreen wiper this knee that's on the floor closer to him so I can throw my leg over, okay? So I've got my grip, I tuck my leg in, and I'm going to throw my leg over first. You see how my butt isn't even touching the ground yet? And now, as I start, I can either finish him here just by bringing my shoulder down, or I can rock to my back and also get the finish. Okay? Okay, one more time, I'll do it really quickly. Okay, so we're here. Okay, shoulder in between his shoulders, hand on the chin, leg up, leg down, one on the tricep, okay? I can also start to back legs here. Okay, so from here, I move my head to the opposite shoulder, my wrist comes up. Okay, now my knee goes to his hip, and I also try and grab his lat, okay? So, put the hip, grab his lat. Okay, now I'm going to tuck this leg in, so I can throw my other leg over. Now I can either finish from here, or as I sit back, I also get the finish. Okay, I don't want to put any more pressure on Will. Okay, so that's you can also finish with one hand as well, by the way, because if you're doing, this is kind of what happens in the Gordon Ryan match. Okay, Gordon Ryan match. It's mostly once you get high wrist and you've closed off both sides of their neck, it's very, very hard to get out. The other hand isn't really doing anything, so you can get a lot of one-handed finishes. The arm in that I'm going to show you from high wrist that Gordon does later, in fact I'll show after this, he basically finishes with one hand. His second hand is just there to keep the guy from hand fighting. So, but I'll show you the one-handed variation before I show the one that Gordon does, okay? So the one-handed variation comes this way, so you can see. Okay. So I lock all my stuff up, okay? My head goes to the other shoulder, my wrist comes up. I'm here. Now I grab his lat. Okay, so it's hard for him to roll, and I do the same motions of tucking my leg in and throwing my leg over, and I could still finish now, just keeping this lat grip, and all I'm going to do is turn my my elbow down and wrist up, and I still get the finish with one hand. You see? And if I feel like, okay, maybe I don't feel like this is tight enough, I can at any point now sit back, get my grips, and still finish with both arms. Okay? So there's always, I usually try and go for a one-handed grip, and then if I feel like I need to bring my other hand in, I will, okay? Otherwise, you're kind of just forcing it. Like some people with the high wrist, they get like a chin strap, they grab their wrist, and then they try and yank their hand up, where realistically, if you're getting a good grip straight off the bat, you're going to get like quite a clean finish, in my opinion. Okay. Let me just show you the Gordon Ryan one, so we're on the same page. I'll show you how to finish it, and then we'll move on to the arm in stuff. Okay, so everybody can see, yeah? Cool. Okay, so later on in this match now. Oh, bit forward. Okay, look, this guy, I don't know, this match. See how he hip heists in this just now as well. The thing I was showing you before, earlier just now. You see how he's basically in a static position, and Gordon decides, okay, I'm going to stand up now because the guy's not putting any pressure into me. Like a good option if you're a guard player and the person's not engaging, or they're very much back on their butt or their heels, it's very easy for me to start putting weight off of him to sit myself up. And now I'm bringing my head above his, and it's easy for me to start going to snap downs and front headlocks. Like a lot of the Danaher people will do this. Like Nicky Ryan loves doing this, and Tarzan loves doing this as well. It's very much, okay, especially if they're losing on points, they're playing guard and they just want to get up to their feet, so they're always hip heights. It's basically a technical stand-up, okay? You're using your hand, you're using the collar tie usually to push weight off of them, okay? My hand's behind me, and now I'm basically doing a technical stand-up. And now I've raised my head above his head, even though you can't see. My head's above his head. Now I have easy options to throw his head in up both front headlock. Okay? This is kind of more like Gordon Ryan getting up and the guy just pushing into him, so it's a bit silly on this man's part. Okay, so look, he stands up. Now watch, he's going to go really high wrist. Unfortunately, can't see. You see how his wrist is probably higher than this Chris guy's shoulder. And now look, his other hand is there, but his hands are not linked. Okay, you see it in the slow-mo a bit more. Let me show you the slow-mo. At no point does Gordon link his hands in this finish. So I think it's wrong. Okay, look, so standing up, he shoots in. His left hand's going to shoot. His left hand is going to shoot higher than his shoulder. You're going to be able to see it from this angle. You see how he's bringing his wrist above his shoulder now? You see that? And now his other hand is just there, basically controlling the other guy's hand to stop grip fighting. Even though one of the best things about this high wrist situation, the reason I like going for it the most, is as soon as you cut the angle so as soon as I've done this. So as soon as I've cut my angle, okay, and I come up here, he can't hand fight. My hand is too high up on Will. Sorry. My hand's too high up for Will to grab my hands and rip it off. Okay? This is the problem with rear naked chokes. Okay? If you're doing a rear naked choke, and my hand's on top of his head, is easily stripped, which is why usually we're trying to get your wrist deep behind their head, and now I put my hand over the top. Now if he tries to grip fight with me, he can't. Okay? Whenever someone's going for a choke, you need to protect your hands and your wrists, because that's the end of the lever. A really strong guy is probably not going to be able to even pull your forearm off. If he gets your fingers or your hand, it's going to be a lot easier for you to script grips. Okay, so the reason this high wrist works so well is as soon as he's bring that high up and cut the angle on him, it's very, very hard for you to strip the grips. Okay, so now Gordon falling back. If you see the angle again. Yeah. So look, his hand's going to come up. See how his wrist is above his shoulder? See how his wrist is above his shoulder? And now his other hands aren't connecting, and he just sits back. The guy comes up. He still hasn't got his grips. See his hand still above his shoulder? You see his hand's not touching anything, still above his shoulder? And he gets the finish. Okay? So that's super, super similar to what I've just shown you. Okay, I'm going to show you it again just so you can have a proper see of it. But it's basically you're just doing the high wrist and your hand's free to do what it wants. In the one I showed before, I'm just grabbing I'm just grabbing the lat, but you can you can also be stopping it from hand fighting. Gordon was basically flexing on this guy, so there's a bit. See, okay. So what Gordon's doing is the same thing, okay? He's in this scenario, my legs up, okay? Gordon did it transitional, but basically his hands raising, he's switching his head to the opposite side so his wrist can come up. Now his other hand is basically digging deep through. He's not grabbing his own hand though. He's basically using this hand as a drake to stop Will from even trying to pull my hands apart. Okay? Now it's the same thing we just did before. I bring my knee to his hip. Now I'm going to throw my leg over first. I tuck my leg, sorry. Throw my leg over and I sit back. And I still get the exact same finish we got before, okay? So that one was quite similar, so I just want you to see there's a variation out there like this. Me and Pete Crooms, we also trained at Grand Union, we used to play around with this a lot. And I thought I created it, but Gordon did it before me, so it's quite Pete. Okay, now let's go to low wrist, okay? So this is where guillotines are kind of personal preference, like because I'm long and gangly, I prefer doing a high wrist, but low wrist is another variation, okay? So low wrist is just, your wrist isn't penetrating past their shoulder. This is probably for people with shorter arms, or, I don't know, it's just a personal preference thing. Like, realistically, if you want to be really good with front headlock, you should kind of be able to do all of them. Realistically, you want to try, if you're really good at front headlock, if you're good at every single thing, whatever dilemma the person kind of throws at you in turtle will give you options, okay? So for instance, like I was saying before, maybe Will shrugging, it's hard for me to get a deep shoot through on my wrist, but it's still kind of easy for me to get my hand underneath his chin, then maybe I'll go for a low wrist, okay? So I'm going to show you Kron, okay? Kron, Marcelo's the king of the high wrist, in my opinion. I'm sure, by the way, if we watched Gordon versus Keenan, he did low wrist or high wrist. You'll see. Okay, I'm going to show you Kron's low wrist. Okay, he's probably one of the better known guys that do low wrist guillotines. Like Hinger is very well known for his guillotine, but he's kind of got his own thing in general, and he's just juiced to the gills. So I shouldn't say that probably, but he's pretty hench. He's not muscular. I'm not muscular like him, so I couldn't really hit stuff like that. So I'm going to show you Kron's guillotine now. Okay, one sec. I need to open it up. It's gone. There we go. Okay. So. Okay, so this is Kron versus Jason Manley. So this is another kind of in transitional technique, but you'll see that his like what I'm trying to say with the wrists, okay? And he also does something I don't like, which is closed full guard. Full guard is much more of an option with low wrist because the pressure you're putting on is more to do with your hands than it is with your legs. But still, just try and finish in that Marcelo kind of way where you're completely off to the side is always better. There's so many more options. Like your closed guard, your legs are basically closed. You can't decide, okay, I'm missed the choke now, I want to move to something else. When your legs are open off to the side, it's very easy because you have control of the top of their lever, their head. It's very easy for you to sweep from that position. Okay, so look, low wrist. You see how his wrist, in this scenario, Kron, his arms never get very high. You see his elbow doesn't get very high. Manley's arm is actually above his bottom arm, the control arm, okay? So you see how his wrist is nowhere near his shoulder? And he still gets the tap, okay? So this is slightly different, all right? Obviously slightly different from Marcelo's choke. This grip that I'm going to show you now, and this is similar to, we can't see Kron's hands unfortunately during this, but I'm sure this is kind of similar to what he's doing. This works well for arm-ins as well, okay? If you get high wrist, I would just always commit to try and doing not an arm-in like Gordon did, just always trying to commit to high wrist. Because with Gordon, if you wanted to finish that choke with the arm in, the guy was like trying to stay in it a little bit longer. He probably would have taken his arm out and locked up a proper Marcelo Rick, and then finished, or high risk would be finished. Okay, so I'm going to show this this low risk guillotine. Okay, so I'll show you it about Will quickly. Let me just stop this. Okay, so with low risk now, okay, my hand's not gonna go past your shoulder. Okay, like before. This scenario, my wrist is my thumb is gonna turn in and face the guy. Okay, the screen's over there. So basically, so my hand, high wrist, my hand would just go up, and it would create double closure. With this, the side of the neck that would usually be closed up with the forearm, because my wrist is so low, has to be closed up with my fist basically. Okay, so what I'm doing, as soon as my hand comes through, I make a fist, and I'm basically turning the fat of my hand towards them, so my knuckle faces in towards their neck. Okay, it's hard to see. I know my screen's really white, but so my hand comes up, and now I'm going to turn my wrist like this. So there's basically the knuckle of my thumb is going to go in their neck. Same with it if I had a Hinger's team is very kind of similar to this, but even less deep, which is why I don't like it. Like Hinger will do the same variation, but he'll have a chin strap and he'll turn his knuckle into a guy's neck like this, and then Hinger will basically crank like this. But this is a bit tighter in my opinion because he closes up a lot more space. Okay, so same with Will now. Maybe I feel like Will's shoulder's a bit tighter this time, and I can't turn my wrist in to face him. Okay, so my wrist is here, and I can't bring my wrist all the way through. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I turn, and now see how my wrist and I turn my hand so this basically comes around his chin, and my knuckle faces into his neck like this. Okay, now my other hand is just going to come to the fat of my hand. Okay, so my wrist turns in towards his neck, and I grab the fat of my hand. See how both my elbows are really low now? My elbows don't flare, they kind of tuck in, and my wrist isn't that high. Okay, now I prefer it if you guys did the same kind of scenario with your legs, where you're turning, sitting back, throwing the leg over. But this is one of the guillotines where it's kind of okay if you get closed guard, all right? Still, I prefer that. I'll just show with closed guard too, but something different to look at, all right? The other thing that people show a lot of guillotines that I don't like is they do this thing where they push into the person first and then sit back. The reason I don't like this, number one, it shows you're about to do the guillotine basically. You're pushing into them, and the other thing is you can basically time this and turn off to the other side. So you know what I mean? When I was saying earlier, if I start pushing into Will, he's like, okay, he's gonna fall back to a guillotine, and as I do that, he gets control of my leg like he's doing now. And if I then sit back like I'm going for close guard, he just pass my legs, and I've lost the guillotine. Okay, so that's why I don't like doing this close guard technique. The reason it's kind of good to get closed guard in this one is because it is kind of easy to pinch your knees in and force them into the choke. So we're here, okay? I'm just going to do, instead of throwing my leg over, I'm just going to sit to my butt, okay? So I sit to my butt, I close up the choke. Yeah. And now what I'm going to do is a motion of pinching my knees in towards me, and my hand now, the hand that's supporting, is going to be pushing my thumb into the side of his neck, and I'm putting my elbow low. Okay, I'm basically putting my elbows in for that finish. Okay, one more time. I wish you could see Will's face because he has premium choke on his face. All right, this here. Okay, I'm just gonna do the normal one this time. So I turn my wrist in, my hand comes in as well. Okay, so we're here, and now I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna do the same thing I did for the high elbow. Sorry, I tuck my leg in. Now my leg comes over, and I sit back. And I'm doing the same thing, punching in like this. Okay. Right. Now, Kron hits this exact same choke, but this time it's arm in. Okay. So let me show you now. Don't know why I decided to. Okay. Okay. So this was Kron in the final. Everybody can see this, yeah? Okay. This was Kron in the finals of ADCC 2013. Okay. This whole match is pretty boring because it's just wrestling. right, so this is another thing in this position is, or what Kron does here is, usually if you're going to go for guillotines, I'd much prefer it if you tried to sprawl out on the person first before going for the choke. Because the problem is, if Kron missed this choke in this scenario, he would have been taken down, the guy would have got 2 points, and the guy would have won if he continued to stall. So if you're going to go for guillotines, I think it's more appropriate for you to sprawl out or defend any of their attacks first, and then go for stuff. That's the preference, okay? Obviously, sometimes you're just going to get the guillotine. That happens a lot. But the guillotine is something I finish the most. My highest rated submission in comp is guillotine. That's the thing I finish the most. But I fall into the trap of going for guillotines while the guy's taking you down, and then you're in a trash position, you know what I mean? You should always try and get good at sprawling before you should go for the guillotine, okay? So let me just show you this now. Now Tavi's going to shoot. And it's going to be a lot easier to lock, like I say, I prefer high wrist. If you're sprawling first, it's going to be a lot easier for me to get a high wrist. If I think I'm going to get my wrist all the way through mid-air, like Kron does the low elbow here, if I think I'm going to get my wrist all the way through to his far shoulder in mid-air, it's just not going to happen. This is why Kron manages to get this low wrist, because low wrist, he can just bring his hand in straight away and get the grip, okay? So now look. You see how his wrist's really low? And he gets the finish. Unfortunately, there's no replays, but you see how both of his wrists are very low in this scenario? Okay. Also, the pressure you're trying to create when you're finishing these chokes is, when I'm off to the side, what I like to think when I'm trying to add pressure is I'm trying to get my choking hand's elbow towards my bottom knee. Okay. So this is, I'll show you what he's doing a bit, but what I mean is when I'm off to the side like this. Okay, so when I'm here. When I'm going for my chokes, okay, whichever it may be, okay, I'm trying to get the elbow, this elbow here, okay, I'm trying to get my elbow to touch my knee, my bottom knee here, okay, so my leg's over, but what I'm going to be doing is I'm basically crunching myself in and trying to uppercut my knee with my elbow. I'll do an upwards elbow towards my knee, and that gets my finish, okay, right, okay, so let me just show you this this arm in, and then I think because I went over quite a bit, I'm gonna show you the darces and the anacondas next week, okay? Because there's plenty of stuff I can go over that for ages, and I don't want to rush the last 10 minutes me showing anacondas when I can literally show it for ages. It's one of my other favorite submissions. Front headlock is my favorite position, but basically I love front headlock. Okay, let me show you this arm in guillotine, and then I'll show you the other stuff next week, okay? Also, once I'll show you this, and then after you can ask questions. So here. Okay. So we're here, exactly like we did before, but maybe this time I can't get my hand round to get here. Maybe as I'm doing the low wrist, he brings his shoulder close to me, and now it's hard for me to bring my other hand over the top, which happens a lot, okay? This is another scenario where him moving his shoulder blocks me from doing something but opens up other things, okay? So maybe Will, in this position, decides, okay, I'm not going to get guillotined, and he brings his arm up here. Okay, now I can't fight my hand down here. If I was going for a high wrist, if I already had it, perfect. If I didn't, I would have lost it, okay? So now, same thing as you did before. My wrist turns in, thumb towards his neck, my hand comes under and pushes on my hand, okay? Now it's the same thing we did before. I sit in, throw my leg over, and we get our finish. Okay? Exactly like before, okay? Is there any questions before I go, and then we'll go over thingy next week, yeah?
Can I just ask him? Go on. Go on.
Let's go, but it's both mats. Let's go Australian mat first, okay?
Yeah, cool. So when Kron was doing his finish there, he turned on his hip to prevent his opponent posting his head on the ground as well. So with all of these variations you showed, how important, like where do you want the opponent's head to go? Do you want to prevent that from posting on the ground?
Not necessarily. I don't want, the main thing when the guy's escaping now, okay, is you don't want the crown of their head to pass your elbow, all right? So usually it's posture. If you catch cleanly, you'll see a lot of people trying to pull out and they'll still get finishes. It's okay if they're posting their head on the ground, but that motion of me turning my elbow in should slightly lift it. If a guy does post heavily on his forehead, as long as you got grips right, it should be fine. But also know the lower their head is, the more likely you can sweep them after. So worst case scenario, okay, we're not going to finish the choke. At least we can move back into sweeping them. So like I said before, if people are putting a lot of for Will to put a lot of pressure on his head is also recreating this dilemma. Okay, he has to put all of his weight on his head and basically tripod. So his leg needs to be up and his head needs to go on the ground like this. Okay, this leaves him putting all of his weight on his head, which makes the rest of his body extremely light. Like next week when I'm showing the anaconda, this is what we usually switch to. I'll go from guillotine to anaconda. I'll show this next week. But if I'm in this scenario here, and Will start putting major weight on his head, and I feel like I can't get it. Usually I should still be able to get this choke. Okay, but maybe worst case scenario, the man's crazy. I can't choke him out. Okay, then I can always do this stuff where I bring my other leg in. There's so much weight on his head at the moment, he's pushing in. That it's super easy for me to lift him and throw him over. This is why I can start over anacondas and stuff. But yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Awesome.
No.
I was just going to ask about taking the back from front headlock, and you said like the cue is the knee and elbow position. Is there any other cue for when you transition to that? And is there anything you have to watch out for?
I'd say that's like the biggest one is going to be elbow to knee, because we always kind of want our knee to come behind them, all right? Behind their elbow at least, because always whenever my knee is in front of Will's, okay, he always has scenarios where he can grab my legs. If my knees are down, he'll always have scenarios where he can grab my legs. As soon as my knee gets behind his tricep, I'll do it on this side. As soon as my knee comes back behind his tricep here, if he tries to grab my legs, he can't, okay? And if he does try and grab my top leg, then he immediately crucifixes himself. It's a bad option to do, okay? So you can either wait for them to have that, you can either wait for them to give you that option of opening their elbows. Maybe they really feel like they don't want to get guillotine, so that hand comes really up and try and stop, okay? So either they give it to you or you force it, okay? Which I'll show you in the anaconda scenarios before, but like you can constantly put them under threat basically. Like one of the really nice ones I think about is you've got high wrist, okay? Or like, sorry, I go for my anaconda now here, my anaconda grip, which I'm going to show you next week, but we'll go over it more next week basically. But if I have my anaconda grip here, you see how I can force Will's elbow to go away from his knee? And then I can basically force the position.
Yeah, and it opens at the back.
Now I can bring my knee in. I have my grips to stop him from even coming back, and I can force the position. Also from here, now if Will doesn't like that, and he pushes his elbow back towards his hip, I can switch immediately back to high wrist because he's giving me that option. So I can switch between stuff. And now he brings his shoulder forward, I can immediately go back to my back takes, I can go back to my high wrist, I can go back to my anacondas. Wherever he moves, I can switch to some other submission, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, but we'll go over these dilemmas. We'll go over these dilemmas more in next Wednesday. Okay, I'm going to go over mainly Darcy's anacondas, but I'll show you some back takes from front headlock as well. Gordon, if you want to watch someone who's good at this, Gordon does it a lot. He goes to front headlock and takes backs. I've only ever seen him really hit a few guillotines, but that's mainly because people fear him so much, he just takes the back from there. That's like the premium turtle front headlock to back is either Nicky or the Ryans basically. They got fairly similar games, I'd say.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you.
All right. Yeah. So if you got any other if you got any other questions, just message me. All right. But we'll go over mainly anacondas and darcies next week. Okay. All right. See you later, guys. Have a good day.
Awesome, mate. Thanks, bud.
Thanks, man.